Okay, today we're discussing the 5 series of Bernina, and we're going to look at the sewing menu. So let's go over our screen here. Up in the top here is telling me what the tension is. It's at 5.25. If I needed to change it, I could just tap on that and adjust it. Now we did see in the previous lesson that you could change it for the entire machine. This would be just for that one project that you're stitching while the machine is still on. This is telling me what foot I'm using. I currently have the 1D foot installed. As you can see, it's now changed. When I select a different foot, say I select the 20C foot, I would need to tell the machine that I have selected the 20, and I'm just going to scroll to where it is. The 20C right there. Now tap on that and it would change. Now this one is indicating the pressure on my foot. Right now it says 70, which would be appropriate for cottons. But if I was doing something from free motion where you have 3 layers of fabric, if you're doing jeans, heavy fabric, you may want to reduce this, say to a 60. It would be most important for you to test out what the appropriate foot pressure is. Again, I have the yellow around the icon. Tap on it and it brings me back to the default. This works on the same principle. Here's my breadcrumb. I can just X out of there and I'm back at the sewing window. And this one here is telling me 2 things. Number 1, I have a standard needle in, and I'm using the standard 9mm stitch plate. If I was to put on the single hole stitch plate, I would change it to the cut just by tapping on it. As you can see that this changed to cut. If I was using a twin needle, now I won't be able to do anything. It will not let me stitch on this one because this is a single hole. I have a twin hole. Notice how it has a check mark beside it. If I pick this one, you notice there is no check mark beside it. So it does have some safety built in here, so you're not selecting stitch combinations with the wrong stitch plate. Now this is for my feed dogs up or down. If you're doing free motion quilting, we typically always have our feed dogs down. If you're doing a machine embroidery, you always have your feed dogs down. And here this is telling me feed dog up or down. My last icon on the left hand side is my bobbin. And it's going to show me how to thread my bobbin. So let's take a look at this screen. So right now it's telling me that my needle will always stop down. It's telling me that my stitch length is 2.5, which is a standard stitch length. My needle is actually in the center. It's at 0 position. So I can go 4.5 to one side and 4.5 to the other because this is a 9mm machine. It's telling me I'm on stitch number 1, which is just your standard straight stitch. Number 2 is my zigzag. These are the most commonly used stitches, or the utility stitches. Zigzag is telling me my zigzag is 1.6 and the stitch length is 1.5. This is an overcast or a blind hem. It's telling me what its default. And you can scroll down and there is 37 utility stitches. Each one of these can be changed or adjusted. Now this is what we call a flyout menu. If I tap that, the sub-menu goes away and the full menu comes out. So if you want to see everything in that one menu, again, you see there's a little arrow on that. Some people find this area just a little small. There, now we have the full menu. And I can tap on the arrow. Now I only have the little sub-menu. So I'm on my utility stitches. These are some of my decorative stitches. Let me expand that menu. You'll see that there's quite a few in there. So we have all kinds of little objects. We have bunny rabbits, mushrooms. Now again, we go by the breadcrumb. And we have quite a few in here. Here is my alphabets. We have quite a few fonts built into here. See, by expanding the menu, I get the capitals, then I have lowercase, numbers, and then your punctuation. The next menu are buttonholes. The next menu are buttonholes. And there are a number of different style buttonholes. So this is just the one that has the bar tapped at both ends. This one has a slightly thinner zigzag on it. Here's some of our keyhole ones, where at the base here we have a rounding effect. This one has quite the rounding effect at the bottom. So you have a variety of buttonholes that you can stitch out, and you can even stitch buttons on this machine. Now it's telling me I've got an information message here. There's some stuff I have to do here. It still thinks I have this one on. Obviously I need to have my standard stitch plate on it because a buttonhole is going to be a zigzag. If I had a single hole stitch plate on, I would break my needle. And I would have to tell it what foot to put on for stitching a button. I would change that. And these are some keyholes or some eyelets. Here we have some quilting stitches. So some of these look like a hand stitch. We have a variety of applique stitches. There's a variety of stitches that a quilter would use. And then we also have some of our favorites that we can store. Okay. Let's go back to our utility and select stitch number 1. Let's go into our eye menu. So, firstly here, we could actually record a series of steps, and if say I want to repeat that series of decorative stitches, I could do that, record it, and then I could play it and play it again. I can add a tie off. Here is our vertical flip, horizontal flip. Here I can add a reverse to it, and this is called backstepping. So the backstepping icon is to continuously sew in reverse without having to press the reverse button. And then of course I can save it, so I would record it and then save it. So this is a pattern repeat. So say I want to repeat my pattern. So I've recorded, say I have 3 decorative stitches in, I want to repeat it 4 times. I would add that in there. Now our pattern adjust, which is this one, we may want to make our pattern at 120% so that it fits a larger area, or maybe I need it to fit a smaller area. I could adjust this percentage. This is the same process in embroidery, where you can make it larger by 20 or reduce it by 20%. So let's go back to our basic sewing in the 5 series. If I tap on my stitch number 2.5, here's how I can adjust the length of my stitching. Now, on the Bernina 5 series, there's always 2 ways of doing something. So I tapped on the 2.5, brought up the submenu, here are my breadcrumbs, and I can increase the length of my stitches. As you'll notice, I'm at 2.7 here, and this has 2.7. But also I can use my dials on the side. The top is a zigzag, and the bottom is for my length, and I can turn it clockwise or counterclockwise. And when I go back to the default setting, you'll notice that the yellow box around the icon is gone. The next most frequently asked question is adjusting the position of your needle. So if I go ahead and tap on here, I can adjust the position. Now it is moving my needle, and it's also creating a kind of zigzag in there. So let's talk about adjusting the position of your needle. One of the quickest ways of doing that is using the left-right arrows right underneath your 2 dials on the right side of the screen. Right below my turn knobs, I have my left and my right. If I want to move my needle to the left, push it down, move it to the right, and I push it to where I would like it to be. And it's going over. Now, I have adjusted the position of my needle. So if I tap on my position up here, this is going to affect the bite or the depth of my zigzag. So if I hit a plus here, as you can see, I'm creating a zigzag on here. So here's if you want to fine-tune your zigzag. So the other way would be to go into your zigzag. And see, this is a 3.6. So I can use my top dial to make it skinnier or wider. And of course, I can use my sliding bar. So there's always a couple of ways of doing an adjustment or fine-tuning your stitches on the Bernina 5 series.